Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on Prime Flash. It is the last edition of the week, and I am DOLLY NGONDE on the anchor. We begin this morning's edition with news from Yaoundé. Thousands gathered yesterday at the Simalen Airport to receive the mortal remains of His Majesty Ibrahim Bombo Joya, Sultan of the Bamoons. The Sultan, who passed away on the 27th of September 2021 at an American hospital in Paris, France, has been scheduled for burial on October the 9th this year. And on a sad note, we now take you to the north region, to the far north region, where 5 people are said to have died in a Boko Haram attack recently in Asigashia, a locality in the Mayo-Sanaga division of the far north region of the country. Weeks ago, the population of most villages in the division fled with their belongings to safer places, saying defense and security forces have abandoned their posts of responsibilities, allowing them or prone to insurgent attacks. And now, inhabitants of Lu, a village in the Donga-Mantung division of the northwest region of Cameroon, are still counting their losses after yet to be identified men invaded the village and razed their houses to ashes. The unknown men reportedly arrested some locals from that area, stole animals and other possessions. And just to note, this is happening at a time when the Prime Minister is preaching peace in that part of the country. And in the following report, Ka Nora reports. Tells us more rather.
Inhabitants of Lu village, Ndu subdivision, Donga-Mantung division in the northwest region are still recovering from shock after they witnessed their houses being set ablaze by some unknown individuals. Reports gathered revealed that the armed men burnt down houses randomly and also destroyed over 32 glasses on the windows of the Baptist church in Lu village. While they burnt down houses, gunshots were being fired indiscriminately as they moved courageously and fearlessly in some neighborhoods across the village. The unidentified men got into the village where they spent the night, carrying out atrocious acts. They stole goats, slaughtered and prepared the goats, and intimidated the villagers. The men equally broke into some houses and stole bikes, making away with some cash. Some live goats were carried on the stolen bikes, as well as 5 villagers who had been arrested but were later released when the men crossed the river separating Lo and Taku, a neighboring village. The men succeeded to make their way finally with 2 goats and 2 bikes as their booty, while leaving a 15-year-old teenage girl who was raped as she woke up early to do her chores. It should be noted that these atrocities are happening at a time when the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Ngute, is on a peace mission to the northwest region, calling on all to embrace peace and move forward.
While you may be still dealing with that, a suspect has been arrested in Yaoundé in possession of National Gendarmerie professional cards, and he was also in possession of several gadgets of the same corps. The suspect is being interrogated presently on how he came about the items, where he got them from, and meanwhile he is not part of the National Gendarmerie unit. And still on the Prime Minister's visit to Bamenda, we now talk Dion-Ngute, who has enjoined inhabitants of the northwest region to decrease and disease from sitting on the fence and shun fear and get back to the normal activities. The call was made as he entered day 3 of his visit to Bamenda. Northwest correspondent Charles Kebwa has details on this story.
Day 2 of the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Ngute's visit to follow up implementations of the resolution of the Major National Dialogue at the Grandstand Commercial Avenue. The Prime Minister urged the people of the region to shun fear and get back to normal life as before, refrain from separatist leaders' action exploiting them to undermine Republican institutions, while requested the people of the Northwest to stop sitting on the fence.
We must tell them forthright, we must stop sitting on the fence because we are destroying our regions.
13 young men who described themselves as separatist fighters led by style named General Scatter announced to the crowd they've dropped their weapons. The Prime Minister described the initiative as a welcoming news to his peace mission to the region, invited the youths, mothers, clergy and elites of the Northwest to help save the lives of those in the bushes.
You and I, those children in the bushes did not fall from the sky. They were born by mothers who are sitting here, or who are listening to me today. They were born by parents who are with us. And the President has asked me to tell you to challenge the entire elite of the Northwest region. And when I talk of elite, I'm not talking about the people with ties. All of us are elites.
Various speakers at the Commercial Avenue Grandstand event joined their voices to that of the PM, reminding the people of moves made by government to redress the grievances that led to the ongoing socio-political unrest. In simple terms, the Prime Minister also announced works on the Bamenda Stadium and the much talk about Bamenda Babaju Road and Bamenda City Ring Road will soon take off, with the World Bank finally giving its clearance. He will be meeting stakeholders and persons that matter before he leaves the region.
Away from that, motorcycle riders in Lum Mungo division of the littoral region of Cameroon have stormed the office of the mayor, protesting against a decision by the municipal authorities imposing an identification fee on them. The over 50 riders got into the council premises and forcefully took back 2 bikes which had been confiscated by the local authorities there. And in the following reports, we now hear from Fonquinta.
Motorcycle riders in Lumongo Division, littoral region of Cameroon, today took to the streets protesting against a decision by municipal authorities imposing an identification tax of 17,500 francs on them. The motorcycle riders, who decided to park their bikes, stormed the office of the mayor of Lum to take back 2 motorcycles, forcefully taken from their colleagues for not paying these taxes.
We don't confuse one and 2 Cameroon for this. We don't have 2 Cameroon. We don't pay tax for tombe. We pay impôt libératoire, global tax for tombe. We come again for Lum. They impose we again, so we still pay another one for Lum. I don't know 1 or 2 Cameroon. They say Cameroon be indivisible. But when we come for Lum, when a littoral, they say we'll pay again another impôt. Because they don't tell us Cameroon, they know we divide that. We there for Southwest, but not on Cameroon. We not be pay book for Tombe. Come for Lum, they tell us it not be valid. It be very wrong.
These other motorcycle rider pours out this frustration.
Hey, you don't come out. You say we pay global tax for council. You know you have to pay global tax for inside council. But if you talk say with the head header for pay tax for inside day, we not now. You say go convoke we get number 2 time. We try to negotiate for see how we go do. We want the convocation. Tire, we not see. We not. We want say we don't go for council for try to see the general say you know they. We wait now today. They don't send the people for upside. Say they can't cash we for global tax. We don't have to pay global tax. But you get to negotiate for you. Because you don't negotiate with we not going to pay no nothing.
The riders, however, succeeded in their quest to recover the 2 bikes earlier confiscated by municipal authorities, not without confrontation. The protest this 7th day of October left many inhabitants of Lum stranded as they faced difficulties moving from one part of the town to another.
And now the World Health Organization has released the first approved vaccines against malaria and recommends it be administered widely across Africa, especially on children. NGONDE tells us more in the following report.
Potentially marking a major advance in the fight against malaria, which takes the life of more than 386,000 Africans yearly. The first approved malaria vaccine by the World Health Organization is recommended highly for African children to reduce the sub-Saharan African prevalent disease. With about 800,000 doses administered in some African countries, an estimated 2.3 million doses of the mosquito-rest vaccine have been given in Ghana, Malawi, Kenya, after several clinical trials in different African countries since 2019.
Today, WHO is recommending the broad use of the world's first malaria vaccine. This recommendation is based on results from an ongoing pilot program in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi that has reached more than 800,000 children since 2019. This long-awaited malaria vaccine is a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control. Using this vaccine in addition to existing tools to prevent malaria could save tens of thousands of young lives.
For decades, the malaria parasite have perplexed scientists, health professionals, and organizations who have been working to get an approved vaccine against the tropical disease borne by mosquito bite, which takes the life of a child every 2 minutes.
Every year, hundreds of millions of people fall ill and hundreds of thousands die, sadly, due to this preventable and treatable disease. Every 2 minutes, a child under 5 dies of malaria. Today's recommendation therefore offers a glimmer of hope for the continent. We expect many more African children will be protected from malaria and grow into healthy and productive adults.
Worthy of note is the fact that
vaccination against malaria does not replace or reduce the need for other measures, including bed nets or seeking care for fever.
According to the World Health Organization Director for the Global Malaria Program, the vaccine is safe and effective.
We are reassured on the good safety profile of this vaccine. This is a safe and efficacious vaccine that can contribute to save lives, prevent disease.
Coming at a time when the world is battling heads-on with the COVID-19 pandemic, the malaria vaccine is indeed a breakthrough for science, giving hope to Africans and the world at large after about 50 years of research.
Moving on to the African continent, we now talk about the Tanzanian writer Abdulrazak Guna, who's made the continent proud by winning the Nobel Prize in Literature. The author of Paradise and Dissertation is the third African writer in history to win this prestigious prize. The Swedish Academy praised Guna for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism. The prize awarded is worth 10 million Swedish crowns, that is an equivalent of 1.14 million US dollars. And now in Nigeria, a popular Nollywood actor, Chiwe Talagu, has been assaulted by the country's soldiers. In a video widely shared on social media, the popular icon was seen being dragged and assaulted by the Nigerian soldiers. Sources say Agu was found wearing a Biafran-themed outfit on his body by the road on a busy road when he got confronted by the soldiers. Nonetheless, it should be recalled that the actor is an ardent supporter of the Biafran cause, as he also and always releases videos criticizing the current President Muhammadu Buhari and his regimes on social media. And still in Nigeria, on a positive note this time around, police say they have rescued 187 villagers abducted from their homes by the criminal gangs, and most likely the Boko Haram. The victims, who had spent several weeks in captivity, were freed by the security forces following an operation in Shibiri Forest in the Zamfara state. Police spokesman Mohammed Sheshu has accorded to this. The rescued include both the young and elderly, as well as nursing mothers and their infants. And in Mozambique, a doctor and a businessman have been kidnapped in the capital of Maputo, leaving many residents in fear. The kidnappers carried firearms and fired shot into the air to threaten the victims. The businessman was kidnapped inside the Eduardo Mondlane University campus while his vehicle lay abandoned with splinters of glasses and broken windscreens and windshields on the ground. Police arrived on the scene, but witnesses refused to give statements as the atmosphere was still in fear. And looking at the news on a global perspective, the U.S. is deeply concerned about actions that undermine peace across the Taiwan Strait. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan concurs. His comments came after China sent a record number of military jets into Taiwan's air defense zone 4 days in a row in a public show of force. Taiwan considers itself a sovereign state, but China views the island as a breakaway province. Even though Beijing has not ruled out the possibility of it gaining its independence, it is, on the other hand, still to achieve unification. Meanwhile, the U.S. abortion law gains steam as some Texas abortion clinics have reopened amid fears that a legal ruling which halted states near total abortion ban may be short-lived. Other clinics have reported that concerns over lawsuits have prevented them from reopening. Yesterday, a U.S. judge temporarily blocked the new law, which effectively bans women from having an abortion. Texas officials appealed against the ruling, setting the stage for further court battlings in the country in the next months ahead. And now in Europe, it is worth noting that the EU is setting up or bringing forward new proposals for the Northern Ireland Protocol next week. European Union Vice President has confirmed this. He said he hopes they would form the basis for intensive talks with the UK government. The protocol avoids a hard burden on the island of Ireland by keeping Northern Ireland in the EU single market for goods. But unionists, on the other hand, have argued that it will rather create a trade border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And before we wrap this session up, Bahrain, Russia, and other members of the UN Human Rights Council have pushed through a vote to shut down the body's war crimes investigations in Yemen in the stinging defeat for Western states who sought to keep the mission going. Members narrowly voted to reject a resolution led by the Netherlands to give the independent investigators another 2 years to monitor atrocities in Yemen's conflict. And that brings us to the wrap of this week's edition of Prime Flash Info. I have been Dolly NGONDE on the anchor. The program was produced by DESMOND, Faith Tata supervised, and general coordination came from Kum Leonard. Stay glued to more programs on My Media Prime Television, the only African eye.